Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast. Today with Jacob Magadan.
Joey Simmons.
Jacob Mitchell.
Poppy.
I'm back. Dalton Phillips. We're back, baby.
Dalton has made his return to the podcast after a delay for a little while. Like I said last week, Dalton, if you were paying attention towards the end of the video, I talked about how he kind of left off right after the national championship game. Hadn't had a lot of coverage since, so diving back into that first mock was our first time really covering any football since then. And we're opening it up here with Mock Draft 2.0, the Sideline Shenanigans Mock Draft 2.0. And we'll just dive right on into it. Like I said last time, everybody's going to have the teams that they have. We've got them split up pretty even across the draft board now. Dalton's going to have a couple here for his first one back with us. And I'm just going to start us off. Again, Titans fan here. I stated last week that my favorite pick at the 101 is, of course, going to be Abdul Carter. But today I'm going to be switching it up and going with, I think, is the second most likely option at the 101. I'm going to go Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami. To me, I think he's the guy that has the most potential in this quarterback class. A guy that has a super high ceiling, has the ability to be an elite quarterback if he can reach the potential. But the potential, obviously, we have seen times in college where he looks like a superstar. Of course, leading Miami this year, again, one of the more prolific offenses in college football, just didn't have the defense to support him at all. And we'll see if he can bring that to the NFL. If they go here at the 101 with him, I still don't think it's a bad pick. The Titans are obviously desperate for quarterback, and I think that that's a fine pick at one. Leading into number two here, I'll also make this pick with the Cleveland Browns. I think that this is the position they want to be in most likely, and that is for them to be able to go down and get Abdul Carter. This, in my opinion, again, is the best player in the entire class. I think that they will be moving Myles Garrett this offseason per his request. I think that when we do a trade during one of our mock drafts, we'll kind of discuss where he could end up going and maybe even make a trade somewhere in the top 30 because it's very likely that that pick will be part of a deal to get him to one of these teams trying to compete for Super Bowl. But I think they're going to need to replace him bad. I think this guy is not the same player as Myles Garrett. He's arguably the best edge rusher in the entire league right now. But you're getting a guy that is super young. You'll have on a rookie contract for a long time. And of course, we think he is the best edge rusher in this class by a wide margin. And Joel, lead to you for the three.
Yeah, I got the third pick for the Giants, my favorite team. And I like the way this board stacks. And I'd personally love to take Travis Hunter. But as a Giants fan, I also recognize the need for quarterback. I hate to do it again on you, but I think if Shedeur falls to us at 3, we're just going to pick him up. I would love to get Justin Fields in the offseason and pick up Travis. But I just think the smart move, honestly, it's one of the smart moves. I don't think it's the smartest move, but one of the smartest moves you can do is get Shedeur at 3. So.
Yeah, fully agree with you on that one. Like you said before, I think Shedeur is destined to end up in New York. If they come up to 1, if they stick at 3, I just think that they've had the biggest connection with him in all the rumors that's come out of the draft season.
You've seen those cleats. You've seen those cleats.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
and it just seems like that's where he's going to end up going. Hoppy, if you want to go ahead and get us with the 4 here.
Yeah, I'll be picking number 4 with the New England Patriots, and I'm looking to shore up this offense, and I would be lying if I didn't say Travis Hunter was tempting, but I think I got to go and pick up O-lineman Will Campbell, the healthiest one available, who has also shown some high potential, and go ahead and protect Drake May at quarterback.
Yeah, and that's the same exact pick we made last time, and I think it is the pick that makes the most sense for them. I think that you're right. They could very easily go Travis Hunter right here, a guy that will bring them really needed help on the offensive side of the ball because he would arguably be their wide receiver 1 talent-wise if he got there. And on top of that, you can never have too many good cornerbacks, and they obviously added Christian Gonzalez last year, so that isn't a big pressing need right now. But that is the best pick, in my opinion, for them would be Will Campbell at 4. With the Jags here at 5, I think that they could go a lot of ways. I think we looked at this last draft, and I think we had Mason Graham here, I believe. But if not, I think that Travis Hunter makes a ton of sense here. That is where I'm going. I think that the Jaguars, they can't really rely on their receiving core, to be honest with you. Brian Thomas was a phenomenal pick. He looks like a superstar for the future. But Gabe Davis has really been a failure as a player. Christian Kirk on that big-time contract has not been very good either. And, you saw that first season of Kirk and you thought, well, hey, they might have got ahead of the gun here and got a guy that's pretty solid. Last year was a real regression year for him, and it was poor, very poor performance from him. You go Travis Hunter, he brings you the top DB, which is the important part, is he's going to be extremely important for a defense that has struggled a lot in pass coverage, but also brings them a weapon that they can use on the offensive side of the ball when they get to the red zone. And I think they may even use him more than that because other than Brian Thomas, again, this is not an elite offense by any means. and they've got to help out Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I've got another thing to say. Duval.
Yeah, Duval, one of the
Duval.
iconic off season so far. And Jay Mitch, can go ahead and lead us with number 6 here, pal.
Alrighty, with the sixth pick, I mean, I think the Raiders could use a lot of things. I mean, we could use everything. I mean, as long as we pick a player who's projected to go in the first, we will be fine. But I think this wide receiver room needs a lot of work. I think Tedero McMillan would be a very good thing for us. We have Jacoby Myers. I mean, he's a great receiver, but I just don't see him being, wide receiver one. I just don't think I see him being the main guy for this team. But yeah, I think that if we could get this done, we'd be very happy.
Yeah, and I think that is a great pick for the Raiders. I think that in hindsight from last draft, we talked about quarterback was there, and you were like, I like this pick. But at the same time, I could go anywhere. There's a lot of holes to fill. I think that Tedero McMillan is a guy that is easily got the ability to be a wide receiver one in the NFL. He's a 6'4" receiver. He is very good at the point of contact on the ball. He's good at coming up and making plays, and that just gives a guy, he's got a wide open receiver room now. He is the guy. He will be the focus point of the offense. It just depends on who's throwing him the ball, but I think that they will make some move in the offseason to acquire a quarterback if it isn't picking one in this draft. Number 7 here with the Jets. This is an interesting pick because the Jets can go a lot of ways. We are confirmed that Aaron Rodgers is not returning, so quarterback could very easily go here. I don't think we see one of the quarterbacks come up into the first round unless it's late in the first round, but I will never say never because we've seen picks happen all the time with some really weird. I think it was a couple years ago, Cole Strange went to the Patriots in the first round, and that was a guy that wasn't even projected to go in the top 3 rounds. So anybody can go anywhere. The teams make the picks the way they want to make them. But I'm going to stick with the normal here. I'm going to go that they go get interior defensive line help. They already have a superstar in Quinnen Williams. They add to that. They add Mason Graham. They now have a dynamic duo on the inside. We saw the Titans do this last year when they had Jeffrey Simmons. They went out and added Tavondre Sweat in the draft. Again, a guy that had struggled with playing in college because of his size. He was able to come to the NFL and really perform, played more snaps in the NFL, and that really helped the Titans pass rush in general because the exterior of their pass rush on the outside hasn't been good, but the inside has. The Jets now get that.
I'll be picking at 8 for the Panthers. I'm going to go my Tennessee guy here, James Pierce Jr. I know me and Maggie were talking about this off camera. We're talking about his attitude problems and stuff like that. But that guy has the frame to be an absolute stud. A big guy. He's crazy fast, just a crazy athletic guy there. And now there's a little bias there. I will say there's a little bias there. But he just has like the perfect D-end edge frame. And that's the kind of guy that you don't want coming after you if you're a quarterback.
Yeah, and I agree with what you said there. I think that he can go here. I think that he is definitely good enough as a player to go here. I think there will be worries in the NFL about his run-stopping ability. He hasn't been good in the run game, but he is a phenomenal edge rusher. He is very, very fast, one of the faster edge rushers in the class. And I think that he has solid bend for the guy that he is. You would like smaller sized guys to be a little bit easier to bend, get around the edge, and not have to focus so much on the swim and their different pass moves, rush moves. But James Pierce, again, speed kills. He's very good there in that department. And like we said, the attitude issues has been a rumor, and I don't know how true it is, but it could be a smokescreen. Very easily, these top teams could want him and just say, hey, we're not picking him. We think he's a bad guy. We don't want to pick him. But there is rumors that he will fall out of the first even with the potential of his attitude and just not being a guy that's very coachable. And that sometimes happens in the league. You got guys that aren't coachable. They fall, but, have all the talent in the world, but they just don't want them on their team. I think he's still a really good pick at number 8. At number 9 with the Saints, I'll also be picking here. I think this is the dream location that they want. They want Tedero. They would love for Tedero to fall here. They need a wide receiver one really bad. I think they could reach on a guy like Luther Burden. And I think that there's even a realm of possibilities. They go Ashton-Jeanty here to replace Kamara, who's coming up on a contract year next year. But I think that they avoid those things, and they end up going with an edge rusher. They go, on the edge. You grab a guy like Mykel Williams. Again, an edge rusher from Georgia who has really high highs and some low lows, but again, the performance has been great. He's been good in his college career. He comes in, he adds edge help. They have a very bad cap issue, which they've had for I don't know how long now, 5, 6, 7 years they've been in cap issues constantly. And I think that you bring in Mykel Williams, he shores up the edge, but he gives you a guy that you can afford to keep on the defensive line for the next 3 to 4 years. And it just helps out this team a ton.
Yeah, I got the 10th pick here with the Bears. And I'm going to go back-to-back edges here, and I'm going to go take Mike Green from Marshall, West Virginia. we're taking him off the board. Some questions about his competition, who he played. But I think he's a talented guy. I think he had 17 sacks, 17 and a half sacks this season. Just a stud. And you see guys like that, guys from these smaller schools. I mean, you look at a guy from not a few years ago, from some time ago, from Buffalo, Khalil Mack. He was a stud. He's from a smaller school like that. So I think the Bears take a reach here. I know a lot of fans probably want Ashton Jeanty to get that run game. Some fans might want O-line. But I mean, I think right here, getting a guy like Tyler Booker is just too far away. So just go get Mike Green. Go take a risk on Mike Green and get that edge help.
Yeah, and I like that pick a ton for them. Again, they need edge help. They also need offensive line help, but we talked about it last time. This is a position where they're adding a guy in Mike Green who we all think has the ability to be that good. And again, the question mark is who did he play? Because at Marshall, he had a couple power teams at the beginning of the year, but then he goes into the schedule where he's playing the Sun Belt. They are the best team in the Sun Belt, so he was playing lesser teams. But at the same time, he was very, very good against Virginia Tech when he come down here and played us. And he was also really, really good against Ohio State. That was actually one of his best games all year. And Ohio State has two guys that are both going to get picked in the first round playing offensive line. And he was very good in that game against Ohio State. So I think Mike Green has all the potential in the world to be a superstar edge rusher in the league. I'll be making the pick again at number 11. And I think the 49ers, they're pretty happy with what's on the board. They've got a lot of options. And I think they end up going down the board just a little bit and getting a guy that we took late in the draft last time in Jihad Campbell. This is a guy that can rise all the way up the board to this point because of need. Again, linebacker, what are they losing? Dre Greenlaw. He's coming back this season, but Dre Greenlaw he's not a guy that's going to be easy to replace. You're either going to have to pay him a buku of money or you're going to have to pay Brock Purdy. And I think that what do you end up doing? You pay your quarterback. It's just what's going to happen. He's younger. Greenlaw has faced some injuries. And Jihad Campbell, to me, is a guy that comes in and immediately makes a difference as a linebacker. We talked about it at 32 being a complete steal. That's because I think he has the potential to go in the top 11, 12 picks. This is a guy that is really, really good. And he's probably the only linebacker that I think will go in the first, or true linebacker that can play the middle linebacker position. So I have Jihad Campbell going here at number 11.
With the 12th pick in the NFL draft for the Dallas Cowboys, I'm going to select Ashton Jeanty. I think this is a no-brainer here. They need a running back bad, and that's the best running back that was in college football last year. Me and Maggard talked about that guy every single week. This guy would be like averaging you look at games, he'd have 250 rushing yards, and you're like, what is this? Who's going to stop this guy? And I don't think anybody can. So I like to see him in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree with you a ton. I think that Ashton Jeanty is clearly the pick there. I think that they need help in a lot of positions. They also have some offensive linemen that are stepping away from football. They also have some issues at offensive line in general. So it is already a hole that they need to fill. But again, this isn't the greatest tackle class. We've got two really good tackles that I think can go high up in the draft. But in general, I just think Ashton Jeanty makes way too much sense not to go at 12 to the Cowboys. And Hoppy, if you want to go and make your pick at 13.
Yeah, I just want to say before I take my pick, I think Ashton Jeanty is going to have a very hot start to his career. I think he could be a guy that flames out and doesn't have a super long career, but I think he's NFL ready. But for the 13th pick, I'll be selecting for the Miami Dolphins, and I actually think that they're in a spot here where they want to trade this pick, but we're doing a no-trade mock today, and they're looking to shore up their line, but I see a name in Will Johnson that I just can't pass up. I see him in a lot of mocks going a lot earlier than this. I know there's a few question marks with his transition into the NFL. Is he fast enough? But I think he's a guy that knows how to play the position, and I think that's something that you want in the NFL no matter who you are.
Yeah, and again, Will Johnson is a player that could very easily go inside the top 10. He is arguably the best corner in this class. And they definitely need some defensive help. They've had issues at times. I think that they could very easily also go with another guy on the board, and Malachi Starks there. This is a room that can use help in the secondary, and you get a guy like Will Johnson to go out there and lock up on one end. And then, of course, you have Jalen Ramsey still on the other side, who isn't the Jalen Ramsey that we used to know, but he's still a very good corner. And now you've got dynamic duos on the outside. It can help you guard those better teams in your division at passing the ball, which they are one of the best, so shore up the defense a little bit.
With the 14th pick, I have the Colts here. And I know last time we did this, Tyler Warren went to him. And I mean, if you have a match made in heaven like that, you just got to keep it up. I mean, it's perfect. I could see them being like a Brock Bowers type of player. have that kind of connection with Anthony Richardson and maybe get him going. I think that would be very good for their team.
A draft pick that makes a ton of sense because Tyler Warren is a guy that, again, it is a match made in heaven, like you said. I think that there's every mock you look at is going to have Tyler Warren going here. And if he goes before that, they're going to be pretty upset. I think that they want him a ton. Is a guy that helps out a young quarterback, like you said, a guy that has struggled in the NFL. So, yeah, perfect pick at 14 with Tyler Warren.
That guy reminds me of a certain tight end that was with my goat. You know who it is. Dallas Clark. I see that little resemblance there. They both wore that 44 number there. So I can see that.
I'll also be picking 15 here for the Falcons. I think they need a lot of wide receiver help. I think they would take Luther Burden here. I mean, all they have is Drake London, and he gets destroyed about every game, gets laid out. And I mean, you just don't want to see that from your main guy. You want to have somebody else who can back him up. You're not feeding targets to him. I think it would be great for the Falcons.
Yeah, I love that pick for them. This is a dynamic slot receiver, a guy that will help them a ton in the passing game. You get Michael Penix some weapons because obviously I think that that's going to be the route they go. You bench Cousins at the end of the year. I don't think you stick with them. And if they do, it only helps him too. It just adds a really elite weapon in the slot. And again, easily the best slot receiver in this class.
Yeah, I got 16 here for the Cardinals. They need a few things, guard, tackle, but you probably want to address the offensive line. And I think that the Cardinals here are going to go Kelvin Banks from Texas. I think he's a good fit on that offensive line. Just address the O-line help. I mean, Kyler Murray out there in the pocket the whole time. He's a scrambler to begin with, but I mean, the D-line just gets to him every single time. It feels like. Give him some time. Hopefully that'll open up the receiving game a little bit more for Marvin Harrison Jr., who had a pretty good rookie year. Obviously wasn't the best rookie year out of the receivers. That belongs to Malik Neighbors. And yeah, I think last week we took Simmons from Ohio State. I think he was a perfect fit. And I think Kelvin Banks Jr. would be a perfect fit here as well.
Yeah, it helps out Kyler Murray again, a guy that has been injured in his career. He had to return from that this season. Again, he had some hype coming into the year, a guy that was picked high in fantasy drafts. He performed well at times during the season, but also you could tell he was getting pressured constantly. You need O-line help. Kelvin Banks is arguably the second best tackle in the class, and he falls here to 16. 17 with the Bengals. I think there's a wide variety of ways they could go, but I think it's a very easy pick for me. They go on the interior. They get Walter Nolan. I think this is the same pick I made last time. It just makes way too much sense. This is a defense that was terrible. They were one of the worst defenses in all of football last year. They add a guy that is a game wrecker on the inside, help them a ton in stopping the run, but also he can get to the quarterback. He is elite at doing that as well. At pick number 19 or 18 here, the Seahawks, I'll also be picking. I think that there's a wide variety of ways they could go. We added offensive line help last time, but this time I'm going to change it up a little bit and go Shamar Stewart, edge rusher from Texas A&M. This guy is a freak. He is one of the biggest edge rushers in the class. I think he's like 6'6". He's also 285 pounds, I believe, coming off the edge. This is a guy that could even shift down to the inside and play some D-tackle if they needed him to. But again, I like to keep him off the edge. I think he's more beneficial doing that. It's just a more important position in the NFL. And then again, right after that, going number 19 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a spot in the draft where last time I thought that they got a steal. They ended up getting Mike Green, who we took at 10 this time. And I think there's a lot of ways they can go. They wouldn't mind adding a DB, but there isn't much to add. I think that they're going to end up going edge. And I think that it's a pretty deep edge class. There's a lot of guys that could go here. But I'm going to go Donovan Ezeraku. This guy is one of the more talented edge rushers in the class, had very impressive stats last year at Boston College, was second in the nation right behind Mike Green. So they just, in last mock, got the number one guy. Now they get the number two guy. And Donovan Ezeraku. And again, this is a guy that really proved himself, improved his draft stock a ton, and I think it's boosted him up to number 19 in this draft.
Yeah, and I'll be going number 20 with my personal favorite team, the Denver Broncos. And last time we drafted, I did pick Starks here, and he still is available. And I still do think this is too far for him to go into the draft. I think he needs to be drafted here. But I think it's actually more realistic. And I also like us taking Colston Loveland right here, a tight end that our head coach has shown interest in already. I think the GM does what the coach wants him to do and picks a tight end that he likes.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. Get help for Bo Nix. Again, this offense has one weapon on the outside in Cortland Sutton, but they've struggled at times finding the other weapons to make plays for them. Now you add Colston Loveland, who is arguably the best receiving tight end in this class. He will space out and even play in the slot sometimes. He is that talented. He did that at Michigan. When me and Dalton covered this team, every week he was every stat they had in the passing game. He is their entire passing game. Now you bring him in. He can help out a young quarterback in Bo Nix, who's still developing and honestly had a really good season last year. I'll be picking here at number 21 with the Stillers. We talked about this last week. I believe we may have made the same pick. I think Emeka Egbuka here makes a ton of sense. Again, they need help in the receiver room. Whoever the quarterback ends up being, he's going to have to come into a situation that isn't amazing. Pickens is definitely he's George Pickens. We'll say that. He definitely has his moments on the field. One of the crazier players to watch play football. And at the same time, they just need help. They have lost everybody else on the team. There's not a lot to talk about, honestly. Again, they picked Roman Wilson last year. He did not even play any football for them. So they get Emeka Egbuka here. He comes in immediately, slots in at the slot position, and will be a big-time receiver threat for them. I'll also be making the pick here at number 22 with the Chargers. And again, we talked about the Michigan connection last time. I'm doing it again. It's not the same player because it's not Colston Loveland, but I'm going Kenneth Grant at number 22. I think that Harbaugh cannot pass up on one of his guys. If Will Johnson were somehow to make it here, that's obviously a guy he'd take too. But again, it's just his players. These are guys he literally coached. He already has a connection with them. He already knows what they can do. He can bring them into his system, and they'll fit perfectly. Kenneth Grant goes at 22. And again, we talked about it last week in a comment section with one of the commenters. They were speaking about they didn't think Kenneth Grant would drop. I think this is the perfect position for Kenneth Grant to grow. I think that that's a coach, again, that he's played with. And they do need help. The defensive line for the Chargers is not amazing. And they get a guy that is a freak on the inside in Kenneth Grant. I'll also be picking here at 23 with the Packers. We went with receiver help last week. I don't think that any of the receivers here are worth picking at 23. I'm going to go with secondary help. I'm going to go Jahdae Barron, the best corner in college football's opinion. They gave him the Thorpe Award, a guy that will come in and make a difference on this defense. He can play, multiple positions for them, honestly. He's a guy that can stretch across the field, play on the outside, and be an outside cornerback, but he could also come in the slot and be important there. That would be a pretty good role for him. He's good at covering field and making up for, the bigger field situations. So when they're on one hash, he could be in that slot, shutting down the slot receiver. Also in a zone, he's pretty good at that. We watched him play good in the playoff. Make a lot of plays. So Jahdae Barron, again, great pick at 23 for the Packers.
With the 24th pick for the Vikings, I'm going to select a running back out of the ACC. This guy is an absolute stud. I play with him in college football, the game all the time. This guy can't be tackled. Omarion Hampton, absolute stud out of North Carolina. I'm sure Bill Belichick's really mad he's leaving that guy to the draft, losing him to the draft. But I think the Vikings are going to be that's going to be a happy pick for them because they're missing a guy after Dalvin Cook. I always love that guy out there.
Yeah, and they have Aaron Jones in that running back room, but this is a guy that's getting real old. He's late in his career. Yep. Running backs usually fall off towards that 30-year-old age. And he isn't one of those guys I don't think is going to last a real long time in the NFL just because he isn't a super dynamic running back. He is a guy that kind of has that one thing he's really good at, getting downhill, making up big-time plays. But you bring in Omarion Hampton, who is arguably the second best running back in this class. I think he clears the rest of the guys. I also think that he's a very dynamic pass catcher. And like Dalton said, he really does run through every tackle. I mean, he's a guy that is super hard to bring down. It brings you another weapon. And then, of course, J.J. McCarthy likely taking over. That gives him a really good running back in the backfield with him that you could pair together for a long time. They're both going to be younger guys. And I just think that's a match made in heaven for the Vikings.
With the 25th pick here, I think that the Texans could use a lot of things. I mean, we're seeing a lot of receivers being hurt and maybe even Stephon leaving. I could see them going receiver here. But at the same time, I do think that we need to address a big hole in the Texans, and that's their offensive line. I mean, they have Tunsil, one of my favorite of all time, actually. I mean, he's just amazing. But he's getting up there in the years. He's getting a little bit older. And I think they need to kind of try to revamp this line a little bit, get some youth in there. I think I will take Josh Simmons.
Yeah, and we talked about the slide of Josh Simmons last draft. How far will he fall? Due to the injury that he had at Ohio State. Again, he was really good prior to that injury. He can come in, he can play tackle, but he can also play guard in the NFL. Again, a lot of teams prefer to just take tackles anyway. They're generally better offensive linemen in college. You bring Josh Simmons in, he can play that tackle position on the right side, but they've kind of actually got decent tackles. Guard and center, definitely their biggest needs. So Simmons slides down, he plays guard, and then whenever Tunsil does end up retiring, because that is going to happen relatively soon, you can slide Josh Simmons out, let him play left tackle. You kind of just draft the replacement that can still play while you're waiting on Tunsil's career to end. I think that's a good pick for them at 20.
My favorite lineman in the draft. I absolutely love that guy.
Yeah, I kind of wanted Josh Simmons myself for the Rams. Simmons stay together. However, I'm going to look at the fall of Malachi Starks. Now, they already have two good safeties, and Cam Kitchens from Miami and Cam Curl. I'd be lying if I said I knew where he went to college. But I hate to break up the Cam and Cam connection. I'm going to go Malachi Starks. I think he's such a playmaker. We burned them this year, though. Alabama did, although we went 9-3. Actually, 9-4. But we burned him. We exposed him. But the rest of the year, he played pretty well. And obviously, the year before, he played fantastic. So I think that's a good pick. Secure up that defense for the Rams. You could have went Armand Bamboo here as well, but I really just wanted Simmons. So
Yeah, I think Starks is the perfect pick because of his ability. It's not really a super need, like you said, but at the same time, a lot of teams don't just draft purely off need. They will draft best player available at certain points of the draft, and he clearly is one of the best players left, if not the best player left. And like you said, he hurt his stock a little bit with the season he had. Again, not playing bad football, but at the same time, he just didn't make a lot of flashy plays. He didn't do what was kind of expected of him as a player. Now you add in a guy that can just help the defense in a lot of ways. Starks makes perfect sense at 26 for the Rams.
yeah, and I think this is a place where Dart could come get drafted at too, especially if they trade Matthew Stafford, of course. They have Stetson Bennett as their backup. He wasn't the best.
No.
I could see Dart going there. It might be a little bit of a reach, but I've seen some reports having Dart go in the top 7. So
Yeah,
just
there is mocks out there that have Dart going that high, and I think that his Senior Bowl week was great for him. I also think that some of the high that's about Jackson Dart is apparently he's going to come to the combine and run a 4.5 or 4.6. If he does that, he definitely can skyrocket to the top 50 picks of this draft.
Let's say he's going to dart to the top of the draft.
Dalton very well could. I'll be picking here at 27 with the Baltimore Ravens. Again, there's a lot of ways this team can go. Last time we talked about they could use some receiver help if Zay Flowers, he could come back and be that guy on the outside again. But he isn't the greatest option to be your number one. Now, I think he had a good season, but you can't really trust Bateman. He did have a good season finally, and after that, there really isn't anything else. But I'm going to stray away from it. I think Golden would be a solid pick here. I'm not going to go there. I'm actually going to go some tackle help. Josh Connerly, the tackle from Oregon, again, a guy that had a really good combine or had a really good Senior Bowl, I should say. And one rep is what killed his Senior Bowl tape. Mike Green absolutely bulldozed him to get to the quarterback. And that really hurt Connerly because it just one bad look. But teams aren't looking at just one play. They're looking at the tape he put on for last season. They're also looking at the rest of that Senior Bowl week, being pretty impressive. I really like Josh Connerly here to the Ravens.
With the 28th pick, for the Lions, I'm going to go for a guy that the Tennessee Volunteers got to know really good because we were actually in the playoffs, not like Alabama. Jack Sawyer, this guy was a stud throughout the entire playoffs. He arguably won them the Texas game. This guy ran a touchdown back off a fumble and tackling his old roommate in college. He wreaks havoc in the backfield. Crazy guy. And that's the kind of guy you want on your team.
He definitely really helped his draft stock by how good he played. The tape he put out, again, phenomenal. But it's also going to be interesting because now you've got a Michigan edge rusher and an Ohio State edge rusher coming off both sides. These guys, of course, used to be pure villains. They hate each other. They weren't friends. And now they're going to be playing together. And again, I like that edge rush duo. I think that there is a lot of ability coming from both sides. And again, we'd like to see Hutchinson healthy for a full season because he was having an awesome year coming into the season. It would be fun to see those two pair up on the outside, rushing the passer.
All right, I'll be taking pick number 29 with the Washington Commanders, and I really wanted to get some O-line help for the young quarterback so he doesn't have a second-year fall-off akin to C.J. Stroud. But all the linemen that I wanted to pick have been taken, so I'm going to take a Nick Scorton, and I think that's a really good pick for them. You look at a guy like James Pierce Jr., who went way earlier. A lot of people would say this is the safer edge rusher than that pick. Maybe not as much ceiling, but I think this is a good pick to help out that defense.
Yeah, and Scorton, again, this is a guy that had a really good season coming into last year. He did hurt his draft stock just a little bit, didn't play as good the year before. But again, it doesn't really matter. Again, a guy that has a ton of talent, can come off the edge, help the Washington defense a lot. We saw in the playoff, what did they do when they finally met up with a team that was really good on offense? They got blown out. It was really ugly. They do need pass rush help, and Scorton can bring that for them on the outside. I'll be picking here at pick 30 with the Bills, and last week we took the route of them going receiver, getting Matthew Golden. He is available here again. I think he does make a ton of sense for them, but we also talked about how the Bills haven't helped out Josh Allen yet in the draft. and waited to the second round where they got Keon Coleman last year. I think that they might do the same thing here, and they're actually going to go on the defensive side of the ball. Again, they just can't beat the Chiefs. It's a team that they literally have ran into in the playoffs, and it is an over. Josh Allen has dropped a big goose egg playing them, and I think that the defense can be part of the reason for that because he's definitely played good at times. The year before they lost in overtime because of the defense. So I'm actually going to go safety from South Carolina here, Nick Emmanwori. And I think Emmanwori comes in, he can be a super deep drop back coverage safety, but he also is a very big guy, so he could play a little bit of linebacker if you even wanted him to. But again, I think he just helps out this team a lot. And again, it adds a dynamic weapon for them to use on the defense to try to stop Patrick Mahomes, who has been their kryptonite in the playoffs.
Yeah, I remember that play he had last year as well, this previous season. Pick six all the way home and then flag on the play. I don't remember exactly which team it was against, but it was a great play. But anyways, I got 31 here for the Chiefs. I dread making this pick. I hate the Chiefs. But I think they're all the time getting new O-linemen in the draft. It feels like they just don't want to pay their tackles. And after that, those 4 or 5 years expire, then their contract ends, they'll go draft a new one. So I think, the formula is the same. You make the Super Bowl, what, 5 out of the last 6 years or something like that?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm going to go Armand Membo from Missouri here. I know we had him really high last time. I don't remember exactly which pick, but the Chiefs would be ecstatic, elated, if you will, to get him at 31.
Yeah, and we had him flying up the board last time. We had him towards the top. Again, a guy that is expected to shift down to guard and play guard in the NFL. Very short arms, which is kind of the thing that hurts the tackles. A lot of the time, if you have shorter arms, they're going to move you to guard. Use your ability that you had at tackle, but put you at guard. They're losing their guard likely in the free agency. Trey Smith, a guy that has been a really good offensive lineman for them. Rumors are that he's going to take a big-time deal outside of the contract that they can pay. They just can't afford him. And Armand Membu is a complete replacement there at that position. Now, I'm not saying he is Trey Smith, because Trey Smith is awesome. But Membu is expected to be able to move down to guard and be very, very effective. So I do like that move a lot for them as he moves inside to play guard for the Chiefs.
Yeah, and Joe Thuney as well, getting up there in age as well.
Yeah, and at times last year they had Joe Thuney playing left tackle. They don't want Joe Thuney playing left tackle,
No.
so they definitely can use a guy like Membu. I'll be wrapping up this draft with pick 32 with the Eagles. Again, this is the Super Bowl champs. They don't need a lot of help. They have talent everywhere. We got Jahad Campbell here last time. He went really high in this draft. Again, they would love to get Jahad Campbell here. He replaces Zach Bond perfectly. They won't have to pay Zach Bond, which I know they want to keep him around. It's just really hard to keep players around that are that good when you don't have a large budget to spend. And this time I'm going to go on the edge. I'm going to get some edge rush help, and I'm going to get Princely Umanmielen, a guy that has been really, really good in college, brought a ton of depth to that Ole Miss rush attack, which is really good. I mean, you got Jared Ivey on one edge, you've got Umanmielen, and you also had Walter Nolan, a really good defensive line in the SEC. You bring Umanmielen in, he comes off the edge. He is a dynamic pass rusher. He's a big dude as well compared to a guy we talked about earlier in Shamar. And I think Umanmielen is the key to getting them back to the Super Bowl next season. Thank you guys so much for watching another great video that we had this week. We'll talk about it again next week. Same time, same place. Should be Monday at 7 o'clock or 7:15, somewhere in that area. We probably will plan on doing a trade next week in our mock. So get a little bit more interesting. We can see what all of us think on that side of things. Plus, it'd be kind of cool to see everybody GMing because some people are going to have some teams and see if we can work some deals out as a group. We'll probably try to talk about it a little bit before so it isn't as much of a mess during the draft because it'll be a little bit hard to work out all these trades during the middle of the draft. Other than that, I want to say that we're each going to pick out a pick that we made. I think that for me, I like Cam Ward at 1. Again, I'm not a hater of that pick. I think it's not the best pick the Titans can make. I think that Abdul Carter is the best pick. But I'm not mad at Cam Ward at 1. And then, of course, you look down the board a little bit. I think that getting an edge rusher like Umanmielen at 32, again, it feels like a steal. For the Eagles, they always end up getting somebody good. Howie Roseman's just a genius. And then I like Nick Emmanwori in the middle of the draft, or actually at 30 with the Bills. A guy that is a defensive playmaker and can hopefully make a big-time play to try to beat the Chiefs, who, again, they've never been able to beat in the playoffs.
Yeah, I like that pick as well. I feel like what I touched on last week, like a player fitting with the team. I think Nick Emmanwori does that a lot with the Bills. Now, I like my pick at number 10. I love Mike Green. I think he'll be a stud. Like I talked on earlier, maybe the second coming of Von Miller. I mean, just one of these guys from a smaller school and just being a demon off the edge. So that's probably my favorite pick.
I think I like Joey's pick that he made, and Mike Green. I mean, he's a beast, dude. He is massive. He's a big guy.
Yeah,
But then I also like McMillan for me. I mean, the Raiders, like I said, I mean, as long as we don't do another Alex Leatherwood, I think we will be okay. We just need someone who's projected to go in the top 10. And as long as we take that, I don't think that I don't think we'll be in trouble. At least I think we'll do all right.
Yeah, I had fun drafting day. It's always good learning and seeing what everybody else is picking as well. And I just really like my pick of Will Johnson. I don't think it's necessarily a position that Miami wants to draft, but he fell there, so I took him. I did what I had to do and got it done.
Yeah, y'all know where I'm going to go with my favorite pick. He's a Tennessee Vol. That's the only thing I care about. James Pierce Jr. That guy's going to be a stud in the league. I watched him the whole time at Tennessee, and he's a stud there. He might not have had a great year this year, but he's had an amazing year the year before, and the guy's just got a frame on him, and he's going to turn into a great NFL player.
Yeah, I like what everybody said there. I think that Dalton, you are picking one of the more risky players to take in the
Yep.
draft. I think again, if these attitude issues are a real thing, and there is teams that won't pick him because of that, we could see him fall. But again, this is a guy that was literally mocked prior to the season starting as the number one overall pick.
Yeah.
So
It was a lot of people. He was going to be the number one pick just in general at all.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah,
surprising me that he fell that far.
yeah, I think the lack of production may have hurt him a little bit last year, and of course the rumors of him being hard to coach.
I think it's going to be like a Ollie Gordon type of player. I mean, just off the field distractions are not going to be good for him. So that's why he fell so far. I think that's the reasoning.
Again, thank you guys so much for joining us. We had a lot of fun filming this one. Again, look for us again in a week. I like to see the comments. If you guys want to leave anything down there, let us know what you think we didn't do right, or also what you think could happen, as well as some mock trades that you think could happen. Because again, in a week, we're going to explore trading some of these picks and seeing what these teams will do. Again, a team like mine, I think, will make a trade. So it'll be interesting to see what we can get going. And again, like, subscribe, follow along, and peace, everybody.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.